Good morning, everyone. If my colleague can take their seat, we'd like to begin our meeting. Councillor Moffat will be a little bit late to join us.
Oh, is he coming?
Yeah, he is. But you can sit close to me if you like, if you want to push him out.
I want to sit close to the boss.
I'd like to call our meeting to order for July 4th, 2019. Declaration of interest, committee member. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes 5 of June 6, 2019, the Agricultural Affairs Committee. Okay, thank you. Before we start our meeting, I'd like to read the statement. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendments listed as item 1 to 3 on today's agenda. For the items just mentioned, only those who make oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendment are adopted may appeal the matter to the local planning appeal tribunal. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the local planning appeal tribunal if council does not adopt an amendment within 150 days of recipient of this application for zoning and 210 days for an official plan amendment. A comment sheet is available at the door for anyone wishing to submit written comments on these amendments. Item number 1, zoning bylaw amendment, part of 4528 Woodkilton Road in West Carleton, March Ward 5. The Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of 4528 Woodkilton Road for the purpose of rezoning a portion of the lands from agriculture zone subzone 2 AG2 to agriculture zone subzone 7 AG7 to prohibit residential use on the retaining farmland as detailed in document 2. Item number 2, the Agricultural Affairs Committee approved the consultation detailed section of this report. So basically, this is a surplus farmland separation. So on item 1, carried. Thank you. Item number 2, we have my colleague has a technical amendment, Mr. Vice Chair, if you want, but I'll read the item. Item 2 is a zoning bylaw amendment, part of 3194 Donnelly Drive in Rio Goulburn, Ward 21. It's the same that Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of 3194 Donnelly Drive for the purpose of rezoning the land from agriculture subzone 2 AG2 to agriculture subzone 6 AG6 to prohibit residential uses on a retaining farmland as detailed in document 2. Item number 2, the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approved the consultation details section of this report. And we have a technical amendment. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a technical amendment to replace the location map in document 1. Whereas the report for zoning bylaw amendment, part of 3194 Donnelly Drive, has been prepared to fulfill a condition of severance approval imposed by the Committee of Adjustment, and whereas the location map provided in document 1 of the report did not outline the correct location to be rezoned as described in the report, therefore be it resolved that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend to Council to replace the map in document 1 with the attached corrected location map, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the Planning Act subsection 3417, no further notice be given, and there's a map attached to the motion as well.
Okay. On the item with the technical amendment. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Item number 3, zoning bylaw amendment, part of 1365 Galata Side Road in West Carleton, March Ward 5. Item 1, the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of the 1365 Galata Side Road for the purpose of rezoning a portion of the land from agriculture zone subzone 3 AG3 to agriculture zone subzone 7 AG7 to prohibit residential uses on the retaining farmland as detailed in document 2. Item number 2, that the Agriculture Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation detail section of this report be included as a part of the brief explanation. On the item? Carried. Thank you. We have the Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program, but I need my Vice Chair to read the item, the added item to our agenda. Mr. Vice Chair.
That the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the addition of this item for consideration by the committee at the July 4th ARAC meeting pursuant to Section 89(3) of the Procedure Bylaw.
Thank you. Item carried. All right, now we can ask Julia to come in, introduce herself and her team, and give us a little bit about the Clean Water Program.
Thank you, Councillor. First, I need to make sure I know how am I going to get it up there?
Press B.
Press right?
B.
B. There you go. Thank you.
You can put your mic on too, Julia, please.
Is that working now? Is it on? All right. Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Robinson, and I work in planning, infrastructure, and economic development. And I have been coordinating the Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program since 2014. I'm joined today by my colleague Tara Redpath, who's going to give a wave. Tara has recently joined the Natural Systems and Rural Affairs team, and this program will be shifting over to her in the coming weeks. I'm also joined by Rhonda Bouts. Rhonda is with South Nation Conservation. South Nation Conservation is our lead program administrator for the Rural Clean Water Program. So thank you both for coming. So what I'm going to do this morning is just walk through the annual report from 2018 for the grant program, and then I thought I'd highlight a couple of examples of projects that we've been undertaking in the last year. So the Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program is a long-standing grant program that works in partnership with rural landowners to protect water quality and protect watershed health. We provide cost-share grants that I will speak to the diversity of the grants. As I mentioned, it is a partnership with the Conservation Authority, so we work very closely with South Nation, Rideau Valley, and Mississippi Valley Conservation Authorities to deliver the program. It is funded through a special levy of $200,000 a year that is administered by South Nation Conservation on behalf of the city's program. We benefit from very much of a stakeholder involvement in this program. So we have an external program committee that really guides the program overall. We have representatives from local agriculture and stewardship associations, as well as representatives of various provincial ministries. In addition to that, in each of the 3 Conservation Authority areas, we have local project review committees consisting of local farmers and other local residents who assist with the review and approval of each of the grants in the respective areas. The program is reviewed every 5 years. It goes through an annual review program and a renewal, and we've been operating since 2016 in the current program, and it will be renewed again in 2020. So we have 18 grants that are available through the program, and these are in the 5 categories that I've listed up there. So under nutrient management, this is things like manure treatment and storage, precision farming, and watercourse fencing to keep livestock out of watercourses. Under soil protection, this includes erosion control and shoreline stabilization, as well as cover crops, which is a new project that was introduced in 2016. Under water management, we've got well decommissioning. We have septic repair in areas at highest risk, so close to watercourses or in well protection, source water protection areas, and also tile drain control structures, which I will speak to a little bit later on as well. Under land stewardship, we're looking at windbreaks, watercourse buffers, land retirement incentive programs, as well as forest and wetland management plans. And the last category is education and innovation, so we can respond to interesting, innovative ideas put forward by landowners in the area. The grants range from $750 to $15,000 for each of the grant types, and the cost share ranges from 50 to 90% in terms of landowner contribution. All of the details are on the website, or I'd be happy to provide our information sheets. So the program is in terms of eligibility, any landowner in our rural areas is eligible for it, so for all the types of projects. And then within the urban boundary, any farms within the urban boundary are eligible to apply, and any landowner that has a well that requires decommissioning is eligible as well. In terms of promotion, this is done jointly between the city, our Conservation Authority partners, and other partners involved in the program committee. So we do it through a combination of physical postcards, and if any of your offices are in need of them, I always have a stack and can get you some more. These are also available at the local community centers and different locations throughout our rural areas. We do have ads in local newspapers. Increasingly, we've been using social media, so Facebook and Twitter, to get the word out. We have a presence at all of the significant farm shows and rural fairs. And we also have been working closely to take advantage of when our Conservation Authority partners are active through the City Stream Watch program dealing with residents. We do a targeted mail drop, so residents are aware of the types of support that's available through this program. In terms of the program for 2018, we had 49 projects completed. And these are projects that were either approved in 2017 or 2018, but completed this year. We awarded $150,000 in grants from the program, and landowners contributed close to $550,000 as their contribution. And I always like to flag this. It really is a cost-share program. It's a win-win, where the grant program is really catalyzing substantial investment in land and water stewardship in our areas. In addition to this, there are 23 additional projects that were approved that are going to be completed in this year. Not depending on the nature of the project, they don't all get completed in 1 year. They need a little bit more time. So just in terms of a breakdown of the projects, we continue to see uptake in all of our project category types. The most popular projects that were approved in 2018 were forest management plans, and this was a new category that was added in 2016. We're still seeing a lot of uptake on erosion control and stream bank stabilization projects, as well as well decommissioning projects. In terms of the most amount from the grants that were awarded, it's those 3 project types, plus we completed 3 manure management and storage projects this year, and those are one of our higher grants that we award. I wanted to just highlight a couple of project examples just to give you a taste of the program. So the program has a couple of grant types that were made available, well, that were suitable for landowners that were affected by the flooding in 2017. And so our Conservation Authority partners were present at the local information sessions to make sure that landowners knew what grants were available when they were ready to start thinking about how they wanted to invest in some of the damage that had happened to their property. And so we received 7 applications in the Constance Bay area for shoreline erosion control and stabilization projects. And all of these projects were approved for a total value of around $50,000 in support to these 7 properties. 6 of them have been completed. 1 of them is almost completed. Of these, I was able to check that I know that staff from either Rideau or Mississippi have been out there to see how they've held up in the latest floods. And so far, the indication is they've done fairly well. With the plantings, they haven't really taken root yet because it's recent. But again, I'm pleased to say that that so far they're holding up. So if you see in the example up here, these projects typically include a combination of the stone or the riprap in the bottom part of where the erosion is happening just to withstand that direct water pressure. And then on the right-hand side, there's been a whole series of plants to basically strengthen that whole property in that section. And so Mississippi Valley went in. The grant was to support the work done with these stones, and then the Mississippi Valley went in and did the additional planting in that area. So I know, just on that point, I know there was some concern when the floods happened in 2017 of would we have adequate funds to cover that, and absolutely we were able to respond to any requests that came through the program, because I know that was a priority that we wanted to be able to have to be able to support those landowners. So the next project I wanted to highlight is one that we did through our Education and Innovation grant support. And this is a larger project that we were one of many partners that were supporting a demonstration project on a grass buffer and erosion control. And this site is on the South Castor Municipal Drain, so running through several properties, but we worked with one local producer who was having erosion in his particular section where it was going through the farm. And the demonstration project involved a number of things. So let me just get my numbers here. So for 400 meters of the river, there was some work done to stabilize the part of the bank, again, using a combination of stone and vegetation. There were 800 native plants that were planted, and that was actually done as a partnership with a local high school. And then the really innovative thing about this project is that 25 acres have been set aside for a grass buffer. So this is going to be an additional stretch of permanent vegetation to protect against erosion along the municipal drain, which then the farmer can harvest a couple of times a year. So he gets to use that grass and hay for, or the grasses, sorry, to support his livestock, and it becomes this extra defense against the river. We found that it's hard to get permanent buffers established that are purely vegetation along it. So this is a really nice solution where everyone benefits by having this grass buffer. This was done as a partnership with several parts of the city, so it was supported through the city's water environment strategy. The municipal drain unit, shout out to these guys over here, had a big part in doing some of the physical work associated with the drain. We worked closely with them. South Nation Conservation oversaw the entire project, and we worked with ALICE, which is another local stewardship organization that supports best management agricultural practices. The Rural Clean Water Program just gave a small grant to support the education part. So we supported, there's a sign that you can see down there that's going in on the site. We've got profile information about the project. Students have come out, and it'll be on bus tours for local producers who want to come to the site and learn about it. I do have a short video on this. It's about 2.5 minutes long that will give you a nice, would you like me to play that now or wait till, okay. All right, this is where, see if I can do it, Mark.
Here we are on Honeydew Farm, right next to the South Castor Municipal Drain. This is a river that flows to the South Nation River, then to the Ottawa River, and eventually the Atlantic Ocean. The lands that drain to this particular water course are very productive and have a high agricultural value. As a conservation authority, one of our goals is to improve the environmental health and sustainability of the watershed. But to do this, we need to look for projects that not only have environmental benefits, but also benefit local producers in their farm operations. A grass buffer is a perfect example of this. It's the area of land right next to a water course or a municipal drain, and it's kept in permanent vegetation. It basically acts as a filter. As water flows over the landscape, but the grass is going to trap any sediments and associated nutrients, keeping those up on the tablelands and out of the water.
So we were having some riverbank erosion and this and that. I think it's a good thing. I remember a bunch of years ago and how bad the land around here used to flood. I'd rather keep this riverbank from eroding and keep it fixed up so we don't end up back where we were before.
It helps to stabilize stream banks in an area that, especially when there's a lot of water on the landscape, is prone to erosion. It also offers many habitat benefits as well. So we expect to see more birds and pollinators using this area and more wildlife moving through these corridors.
The South Nation Conservation Clean Water Program offers funding opportunities for farmers to create buffer strips such as this one. We are very fortunate in Eastern Ontario that we have other programs that provide funding as well, and they are the Ontario Alice East and also the City of Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program.
He's going to be able to mow this area a couple times a year and use the grass as food for his cows. Not only that, but the grass buffer is going to contribute to healthy soil processes and soil conservation. For this project in particular, we're also going to be using this as a demonstration site for other local producers in the area. We've already been working with local high schools, having them out and talking to them about sustainable water management on farms so that they too can see some of the benefits both to the farm as well as to the local environment.
So one of the things we've been trying to do is to share some of the best practices that have been happening. So we found that these videos are really another way to sort of have people learn about the different practices that are available to support watershed health and agricultural productivity. So the second project I wanted to highlight is on tile drain control structures. These are another fairly new emerging technology for Eastern Ontario. So a tile drain control structure is a physical structure which allows farmers to manage water on their fields. So it is a structure that's attached into a tile drain or onto a header of a tile drain, so they can physically close it. And as you can see in the diagram, especially in low water conditions, it's really important that it's another tool for them to be able to keep that water on their property when they need it. It is a relatively new technology for Eastern Ontario, as I mentioned. So through the program in 2017, we did a workshop to get people together to talk about it and learn from, to hear from the people that put it in, as well as the farmers' experience on it. And then this year we've been fortunate that we've had our first project come through that's been supported through the program, so that's good news. And we've also partnered with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association, who worked with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada to produce another video that really is highlighting, it's less on the technical side of it, it's more highlighting farmers' experience, the benefits to the farm as well as to the environment. So there is a video there as well. It's 5 minutes, so I don't know if you want me to show it now, or you can take a look at it later. It's all linked on the site. I can send you the link to it so you can see it. So last slide, just in terms of the financial overview of the program. So in this year, the projects that were completed have a value of almost $700,000, representing $150,000 contribution from the city's program and the $550 from landowner contribution. Our budget in 2018 was close to $260,000. So in addition to the $200,000 special levy, we had some carryover funds from last year, which were already earmarked for projects that were being completed in this year. So our expenses are at close to $187,000, with the balance already encumbered for approved projects that are being completed in this year. The 2019 program is well underway. We have this year and next year as the last of the 5-year phase, and then we will be doing another program review and renewal coming forward with a proposed new program. That will be in the end of 2020, that report will come forward. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, thank you, Julia, and good luck to Tara trying to fill that position. And I think we have some questions for you. We'll start with Councillor Meehan.
Thank you, Julia. I really enjoyed the Castor River rehabilitation. Just a couple things. I was just wondering, how many farms do we have within the rural boundary?
Come on, help me out here, Ron. I used to have all of these, or I'm learning. Oh, these guys have gone. They would know. Adam? 11 or 1,200, right?
11 or 1,200?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And just looking at I guess, the Constance Bay, is riprap allowed? I've along the Rita River, we're not really allowing riprap in certain areas because as flood control. I'm just wondering how common that is.
So definitely, every time, for every individual project, there's a review process where they're looking at what the best solution will be for that particular site. And for those kinds of projects, they would also go through the additional, like the planning approvals from the Conservation Authority for any shoreline work. But a combination of stabilization through stone with the vegetation is absolutely.
Because if the house is built in an area that floods, constantly, Constance Bay constantly, but I'm just wondering what the guidelines would be for, like, that house that was sitting there. Obviously, if it was my house, I want to protect it, or I want the riprap. But how do you, it's just, you examine each case individually?
Absolutely, and it's the
Okay.
conservation authorities who have the responsibility of approving the projects for any work that happens along shorelines. And so they are the ones that will determine if it's the suitable response for that area.
Okay.
I think in that particular example, and when I've had conversations with others in the past, it's vegetation alone is not going to do it. So they need a combination of measures that's going to withstand, particularly on areas where you've got a lot of wave action that's coming.
Okay,
Rhonda, do you
and-
want to add anything? Or
No.
It's case by case.
Okay.
And again, through the permitting process, we'll address whether or not it's a suitable solution.
And that's the same for Rideau Valley Conservation? For
Yes.
the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh,
most of our erosion control projects actually happen along the Rideau River. So you've got
Yeah.
the properties there where you're having erosion coming in. And again, it's on a case-by-case basis, they're looking at a combination of techniques that are appropriate for each property.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really informative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Julia, for great presentation. I question about the tile drain control. You said that it's a new technology. Probably, maybe my answers probably they're all in the video that we want to watch. But since we haven't seen it, what do you mean by new technology? Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because like we've been doing tile trains for hundreds and hundreds of years. So
Absolutely. So it's the control structure, which is the new. So I closed the presentation.
Don't.
It's the physical structure which then blocks the end of the tile drain. And it's either done on an individual tile drain or more commonly along the header. And so it needs to either be installed when new tile drains are being putting in, or it can be retrofitted onto existing tile drains. So it's a new technology in that sense that most tile drains don't have a way of managing water levels they're designed to get the water off, right? And now
Yes.
we've got changing water patterns and we need to be able to better manage it.
So existing farmer, they already have tile drain. They could be
They can-
taking
yes.
advantage and benefit of that.
Absolutely. Now,
Okay.
like any technology, it's got to be site-specific. This
Sure.
works really well when it's a relatively flat slope. And there are, I think, when we've taken a look at reasons why people are hesitant to adopt this new practice, part of it is it's new, part of it is it's just a change in what they have to do in terms of physically getting out there. And it is a matter of making sure that it's suitable for their site. So.
Good, thank you. I just want to also echo what Councilor Shantiri said. Congratulations on your great education video. I really enjoyed it. I know I also want to congratulate South Nation Conservation Authority because I know they host and they work with the city to manage the program. So I know that it's been well used. Lots of farmers, lots of landowner in our community has been taking advantage of it, and you guys been great working with them. So I want to welcome Tara to her new job. I wish her all the best and luck, and thank you very much for everything you've done in the last 4 years since the program started. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
I just had a question about the number of grants approved and the number of grants that were applied for. There's 42 approved last year. Is that number typical for the past few years? Or are you seeing it going up? And how many projects would have been applied for but not approved?
Let me check, because I see whether or not, I would, off the top of my head, the bulk of the projects that are submitted are approved.
Okay.
We have a really, what I think is a very well-functioning review program that takes a look at each individual and makes sure that it meets our criteria and it will have water quality and watershed benefits as well as benefits to the producer. I would say of the ones that are either often, if they will be deferred because we want further information. So there's a back and forth that happens between the site reps and the individual applicant. In terms of, is this a standard number? I don't have those numbers in my head, but roughly, I mean, it's more the dollar value that so for the last number of years, we've been able to fully allocate the grant funds every single year.
Okay. And are you seeing the number of applications increase or over the past few years
Insight on that,
overall?
Rhonda?
About the same.
Yes, so over the last 2 years, we have seen,
Can you sit down, use the mic?
I should have brought you up here in the first place.
yes, so over the last 2 years, we have seen an increase in the number of projects. So we actually were in a position of having a waiting list at the end of 2017 and 2018, which we were able to accommodate with the next year's funding. So we have seen an increase in applications over the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
And I think one of the things that we did as part of the review was take a hard look at our promotional methods and also the types of grants that we did, and we modified those because in the past years, we hadn't been fully subscribed as a program, so you have to ask the question, is it still needed? And I think we've been able to demonstrate with the uptake that absolutely the program is still needed and is still, there's still lots of support for it, so, or interest in it.
Definitely is needed, but not too many people know about it when every time we promote it, oh, I never heard of this
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
So,
we need your
but,
help in promoting it also.
That's right.
Can, why not just do a direct email to those 1,200 farms? I just,
That's the privacy, right? Yeah, we can't, unless people have, so we do advertise through or we send an email out with the Rural Affairs newsletter, but unless someone has joined and would like to receive an email from the city or from South Nation, we can't just do a blanket contact, so.
okay.
I just wanted to add too, we do on the program committee that Julia mentioned have farm groups, so they're very good about putting it in their newsletters and circulating it out to their members, but we really rely on those farmer connections, so a farmer being involved with either the Federation of Agriculture, Soil and Crop, the organic producers, one of those farm organizations, they are very good about promoting the program, but we've run our South Nation program for 20 odd years, and there's still people that, haven't heard of it, so it is a challenge for any program.
Yes, that's true. Councilor Moffat?
Thanks. I just had a quick question. I know this is a clean water program, but just wondering, have we ever considered expanding it into an air quality program as well? So I know that as modern farming comes along and there's advances in that and there's more impacts with that, there are odor abatement additives that you can put into things like liquid manure, for instance. But there's a cost to that, and the benefit to the farmer is negligible, sorry. Negligence, a whole different word. But in terms of the benefit to the community, it actually could be quite substantial, especially when you have some of these farms that are getting larger and larger, and the impact's getting greater and greater, and more land, more cattle, more manure.
Fertilizer.
And so I wonder if there would be an opportunity in the future for a program like this in which farmers could apply to have funding for an odor abatement additive that could help the community at large. Just something to consider.
Yeah, I think that's where the benefit of the 5-year review comes in, right? So every 5-year cycle, we get to sit back and say, do we have the right mix of projects? What else should we be considering? How does it complement other programs? So when we last did the review, the other thing we look at is, well, what other funding is available in the area? So there's been quite a lot of changes to federal and provincial funding for producers over the years. So we take a close look at that and see, well, where's the gap that we might be able to support? So we'll add that to the list of things that we can look at. When
Yeah, I understand in Western Ontario, there's some farmers that are using that type of additive, and like I said, there's a cost to it. I know some farmers in this area have asked to talk to me about it, said, is this an option for me? But maybe could use some assistance in acquiring it or paying for it. I worry, I deal a lot with this in the rural area. We hear, I'm always on the minority end defending modern farming. And a lot of residents don't fully understand modern farming, and they don't like the impact of it on their quality of life. So my fear is that government regulation is going to hurt modern farming. So I look at, could we help it instead of hurting it? Could we help everyone through that process? And what can we do as opposed to just residents, pushing for more regulations so that it doesn't impact them?
Okay.
So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a
Just
follow-
one
Okay.
quick question. Could you explain the special levy? How does that work?
Sure. So, conservation authorities, we have a general levy, which is set out through the Conservation Authorities Act, so that deals with all of our regular programming. There is provision for us to special levy municipalities that ask for specific programs in their area. So the general levy is basically funding that's covered across the jurisdiction. The special levy is for an individual municipality for a specific program. So Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program is one example of a special levy. We also have special levies with the city for the ash tree replacement program.
Okay.
and some baseline monitoring that we do on your behalf as well.
So all three conservation areas get that special levy? Or is
So,
it just South Nation?
In this case, South Nation collects that special levy of
Okay.
200,000. We manage it financially for the three conservation
Okay,
authorities.
good.
So one payment of that amount comes to us, and we help administer that funding to the other
Thank you.
two CAs.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, both of you. And Julia, good luck in your future adventure, and wish you all the best. On the item, received? Received, thank you. We have no one sign up for open mic session. Notice of motion for consideration at subsequent meetings, we have none. Inquiries? None. Other business? We'd like to welcome the Moffat clans to our meeting. They're sitting nice and quiet back there. Can you wave? Yeah, that's it. Thank you. So with that, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. So motion to adjourn. Now we like to, we adjourn from ARAC meeting to open meeting for the for code revision, and we have a statement to read as at the beginning of this meeting. So Van Hall Municipal Drain, for the purpose of hearing appeals under Section 52 of the Drainage Act by owners of land assessed for drainage work under the engineer's report for the O'Keefe Municipal Drain entitled Court of Revision, amendment to the engineer's report for Van Hall Municipal Drain dated January 2019. This court will now convene for the first sitting of the Court of Revision under Section 46 of the Drainage Act. There has been one appeal received by the clerk. So any owner of land assessed under the engineer's report who has not provided written notice of appeal to the clerk in advance of this hearing should identify themselves to the clerk assistant at this time within a request to be heard. If you haven't signed up, you can sign up, but I believe the rules are that if there's any appeal should be received by the clerk 10 days prior to this meeting. So we do have one speaker registered to speak, and that's Mr. David Anderson. Is Mr. Anderson in the room? Yes. Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, sir. I have a little bit of documentation here, so we can take a look. Do they have 5 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Anderson, you do have 5 minutes to address the court. Yes, sir.
All I got?
That's all you got, sir.
My name is Dave Anderson. I'm a owner of Block 18. I've had many discussions with many landowners in the past couple of weeks. Bruce Krusty, Tom Black, Homeowners Association, Mike Wesley. Anyways, this is just an introduction saying that a city official stated once at in a drainage meeting, no bylaw or boundary should be made without having boots on the ground, meaning physical assessment should be made before determining outcomes. So, getting into it, Appendix Flowing A in regards to Flowing Creek. My first meeting with Robinson Consultants, it was pointed out on their map that they had provided earlier was incorrect location of this Flowing Creek. Flowing Creek originates up in Highway 7 by Tomlinson's Pit. And the only flowing water that goes through that is a spring runoff and farmers' drainage, which is not incorporated within their appendix for charges. The drainage ditch shown on my property and property adjacent to me in the drainage ditch flows down Bleaks Road and then crosses over into my neighbor's property and then comes across my property as going all the way down Bleaks Road to Flowing Creek. Ditch on my property dries up every year with snow melt, and there's really not any drainage into that. These ditches were created, long ago anyways. And they should be currently located down Bleaks Road. Flowing Creek also dries up, except that we have farmers' pipes draining into it, and I do have photographs of this because Mr. Gagne asked me, do I have proof? Yes, I do have proof. I have pictures of all the drainage areas. Now I'm going to go over to the Van Gaal drain. The flow of water going through the middle of my property shows that I have water pockets and flooded. This is correct due to improper drain of the water in this area caused by wildlife. Ontario Hydro has no culverts, improper culvert sizing, location installation, a gas pipeline that goes through that blocks this Van Gaal drain on the higher end of the area. Even if the water had the proper drainage flow, there would be a very small part of my property that would be assessed in this, but I'm assessed at a large amount. So I've got a 15 or 20-foot berm that travels parallel to this drain along my property, and they've got the boundary shown over on the far side. Now, there's a map that was put out by the City of Ottawa that has more accuracy to it, and here it is right here as evidence right here. This is more accurate to the assessment of the boundary lines where that berm is and where, as opposed to the consultant's line, which have it going in the middle of almost right through it's improper. So I'm trying to make this fast because I only have 18 minutes. So that with that. So there's that 15, 20-foot berm that travels along there. That's all been dated there. So in summary, all properties not affiliated with blocks 22 and 23 should be omitted from the proposed bylaw 219 due to the inaccurate assumptions and assessments. This area, separate from blocks 22 and 23, should be properly evaluated before including it into a separate bylaw. Landowners were never visited, and there was never a physical review of properties concerned. The red lines that dictate the boundary lines are not accurately represented. If the water was flowing properly, again, by the nature pipelines, there would be limited accumulation of water in these areas. So the farmers' tile draining in the flowing creek north of me are also not responsible for any of this Drainage Act. There are many detailed factors that have not been taken into consideration in this area, not within this bylaw plan. Bylaws are designed to be based on accurate and concrete facts, and not detailed information, assumptions, and proposed information. Additional requirements and costs from a developer should not be imposed upon landowners upstream. Any future issues and solutions with drainage within blocks 22 and 23 should be the responsibility of the developer, based upon accurate studies done by contractors and not the responsibility of landowners. We are not receiving any monetary funding on this. In our annual runoff, it's not considered an emergency. This fen on our properties has taken probably up to 1,000 years to develop and cannot easily be repaired once it is destroyed. A fen helps provide clean groundwater to wildlife and natural resources. What environmental studies have been done in regards to further damage to this? This bylaw 219 is vague in regards to future costs to landowners and has no definition and should be made only to the lands being developed on blocks 22 and 23 and not impact any other landowners without further studies and proper investigation without assumptions and assessments
Can you
again.
please wrap up, Mr. Anderson? Your
Sorry?
time. Can you wrap up, please? Your
Yeah,
time's
I'm
been
gonna
up for a second.
So here I have a petition of over 30 landowners in regards to that. I'd like to wrap up, but my petition will take another 5 minutes to read. But I have a petition here of over 30 landowners in agreement to saying that bylaw 2019 should be only imposed on blocks 22 and 23. So I will have this petition available for you, sir.
Did you give copy of that petition to the clerk prior to today's meeting, or we don't have a copy of it?
I was going to provide it there,
Okay.
but I did provide my counselor, Mr. Moffett, the petition
Okay.
through email documentation.
Okay, Councillor Moffat had a question.
Sure.
Thanks. So I don't think, did you come and speak when we dealt with the engineer's report at committee?
The previous meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I missed the last meeting due to the fact that there was a change in the dates
Yeah.
due to the flooding
Yes,
within the city
yes.
of Ottawa, and I couldn't make that meeting. But at the previous meeting, I did go on record
Yeah.
saying that I do appeal bylaw 219.
But you understand that the drainage plan before us only deals with the lands directly in the Village of Richmond affected by the development, and that there's no plans to alter the drain
So
where you are, and that there's no plans to charge the residents where you are,
at this time,
costs,
so-
but that your future maintenance costs are always on the drain, have always been on the drain, and those are actually lowered going forward than they would have been prior? You were aware of all that?
I'm aware of that. There should be no, why should I be paying extra on my fees besides my taxes, my drainage fees, taxes? Why should I be paying extra drainage fees?
Well,
Could you-
how long have you lived there?
How, 8 to 10 years, yeah.
So, and you've been aware that there's been a municipal drain on your property the entire time?
Yep. Mhm.
So this development and this report doesn't change that?
Sorry?
This report and the development in Richmond doesn't change the fact that you've always lived on the municipal drain?
That's correct, yeah. I know that. I lived on it.
Okay, so
But
if none of this work happened, if this development never happened,
That's correct,
you'd
yeah.
still be assessed on this municipal drain for any future works,
That's proper.
but it would actually be higher than
Well,
it's going to
The
be.
assessment would be based upon what the requirements would be, future requirements would be for the land. Is that not correct? Like, why would you want me to pay extra money for what?
Well, you would only be assessed if there was any maintenance on the drain.
If the maintenance, required maintenance on the drain, yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But that's later on, right? Like
But that's
within
not
4 or
now.
5.
That's not what's
now.
in front of us today.
That's right.
So what's in front of us today is, they're trying to propose a bylaw 219.
Well, that was approved, so that,
For future maintenance.
yeah, so the engineer's report was approved. Now, what is before us today is your ability to appeal your assessment. Of
Yeah,
course,
so
you
yeah.
don't
so if
have
you-
an
if you-
assessment.
If you come back to me in my assessment, the boundary lines on my property, that's what I'm appealing. They're wrong,
Okay,
as opposed to this map here, which has it right.
The assessment's wrong.
that's-
Is that for everybody? All the people who signed the petition feel the same way?
The people that, that signed this petition feel this, negative towards the bylaw 219 being imposed upon them, in regards that there's no definition to it.
but all the residents who, I assume when you went and got the petition signed, that you explained the
Yes.
Drainage Act and Section 78 and what that means and what the actual report says and what their assessment is now, which is nothing. And future maintenance.
I explained to the landowners what this area here, like, how there's no definition to this bylaw 219 for us landowners, how we're gonna be imposed upon a bylaw 219 that we have no definition to, and we're gonna be asked to pay extra fees, taxes for something we don't know about. As opposed that if there was a project in proper fashion, like a project has a beginning and an ending to it, and it has a proper assessment of cost associated to that project.
Yeah,
And that,
There's a
I feel
misunderstanding.
there's quite a
Yeah.
significant misunderstanding here
Yeah,
about what's
it
in front
is,
of us
yeah.
and what you and your neighbors are concerned about. So maybe we can get staff to
Yeah.
respond in the boundaries of the drainage watershed and what we're talking about here.
sure.
Andy or Dave, whichever one.
Okay, so Mr. Anderson, thank you. You can go, but we'll hear from our staff now if.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have, as Councillor has commented, this issue was raised before the meeting to consider. And so we went back and did a couple of things at that time. One is that we went back and looked at the most recent City of Ottawa LiDAR information, which is very, very accurate, and confirmed that, within a tolerance which was acceptable, the drainage area that we have in the case of Mr. Anderson's property is accurate. There is a drain on the north end of his property which is outside of this drainage area that likely does flow to Flowing Creek, but it's not part of this assessment. With respect to the comment about the development and paying, and again, as just to make it very clear, the total cost of the work that's being done at this time, including the cost of the engineer's report, will be a charge against the landowners in the development who are doing the development. So there's no charge at this time to any of the other landowners within the drainage basin. And in addition, for the purpose of putting the assessment schedules together, we always make an assumption on what the costs might be in the future. So in this case, we had made an assumption that the total cost could be $20,000. Of that, we have assessed $11,250 as a special assessment against the lands in that area being developed, so that, in fact, the amount has been pointed out that would be assessed to the other upstream property owners ends up being less than what it is in the existing bylaw. But that wasn't by design, it's just ended up being in that case. Now, my colleague, Lauren Franklin, also went out and visited the site with Mr. Anderson and walked the hydro easement and confirmed, yes, the hydro, when they put a roadway through there, built it up, and there is some blockage. There is a low area where the drain crosses, so under higher flow conditions, the water does continue to go over that drain, and it gets into the Van Gaal drain. So this assessment, the opportunity property owners really is, the drain doesn't go up there, it's not to extend the drain, but everybody who's within drainage basin contributes some flow, and therefore they are assessed. The other thing, in the case of Mr. Anderson's property in particular, we use what we have termed a land use factor, basically, and we look at land, and so we start and say agricultural land or vacant open space land, we give it a factor of 1. Roads, we give a factor of 4. Areas like wetlands, we give a factor of 0.5. In the case of Mr. Anderson's property, we used a factor of 0.6. So we've also taken into account the fact that it's not draining to the same extent as a piece of land that would otherwise be open and clear to drain down to the area. So we've looked at the previously, and again, the concern or question about the drainage area, and feel that it's within the normal tolerance is accurate on his property. If he's looking for drainage to the flowing creek or the improvements there, he can petition for that, or he can bring that forward, but that's not part of this situation, so that we don't see any information to provide to us that would have us alter the assessment on this property. And that, as Councillor Moffat has pointed out, is that's really what this is dealing with. You're not dealing with the bylaw that's previously gone through, so.
Just to add,
Okay.
so if we're talking about the border of the watershed boundary on the north side of the drainage watershed, directly to the north, that is Flowing Creek Municipal Drain. So if you were adjusting the line, wouldn't you just be adjusting it into another watershed, which is also assessed under another municipal drain?
That's true.
So future maintenance, regardless of which drain you're going into, you're assessed.
That's true, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robinson, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any other question to the staff panel? No?
Do we get to ask Mr. Anderson what do you ask?
If you want to, you have a question for Mr. Anderson?
I'm just wondering, Mr. Anderson, does that answer this?
No, I have disagreements with this. First of all, once a boundary line is placed on wetlands boundary is placed upon your property, you can't do anything within those boundary lines once they're established. Number two,
So hold on a second. So we're not talking about wetland boundaries.
Yeah.
oh, so this drainage boundary anyways,
Yeah,
but that's what was explained to me. by-
Right, but there's nothing, it doesn't, sorry, I just want to make sure that we're talking about facts here.
Yeah,
A watershed for a municipal drain does not inhibit your ability to use your land.
yeah, okay. Okay, so.
Because
okay,
what you're talking about, wetland boundaries and the ability to do stuff on your property, that's a whole different thing.
Okay, so that was explained to me a little bit differently. Okay, I'll accept that. But the drainage line that they're showing on this thing here has gone through, I have hilled land, and I disagree with the LiDAR LiDAR can, as he says, is 100% accurate. Well, there's a lot of factors taken into place when LiDAR is utilized. And all sorts of electronic equipment can have a little bit malfunctions, and there's been issues with LiDAR and other areas as well in regards to inaccuracies. But so, answering your question, ma'am, no, I'm not satisfied with.
Okay, but this is outside the court provision, please. We have to stay with it. And Mr. Anderson, please feel free to meet with Mr. Robinson or our staff after this meeting. Maybe they can explain to you, but it seems there's some misunderstanding somewhere. But as a court provision, we have to stick to our mandate here. So thank you, sir. So there's a statement here that has to be read. This court adopted the assessment in the engineer's report dated November 2018. The decision rendered by this court may be appealed to Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Appeal Tribunal within 21 days of today, July 4th, 2019. Sample appeal notice are available from the city drainage superintendent. With that, this court is adjourned. What was that? I think Mr. Robinson did. Isn't our staff will do it? That's not an.
This is all new for me, so, so I'm trying to.
Okay, Samantha, would you like to comment here?
So if the Court of Revision has finished hearing evidence,
Yes.
they can adjourn to deliberate on the court's decision.
Okay.
And once they've made that decision, they can come back and deliver it orally to the
publicly?
tribunal, and then they'll follow up with a written decision.
To
To
Mr. Anderson?
all affected,
But
to the
there's
appellants.
only one person appealing, which is Mr. Anderson.
Correct.
Okay, so we can adjourn and meet.
Yes, you can recess to deliberate the decision.
Okay, so we are recessing, not adjourn. Okay, so we can.